You don't lose because you're weak. You lose because you hesitate. The samurai called it Mushin, the mind without fear. In ancient Japan, warriors trained not only their bodies, but their minds. They believed that skill alone wasn't enough to win a battle. A perfect sword meant nothing if the mind behind it was filled with noise. When fear, doubt, or hesitation appeared, even for a split second, the fight was lost. The enemy didn't have to strike first. Your own thoughts could defeat you before the battle even began. So the samurai searched for something deeper, a state beyond emotion or thought. They called it Mushin no Shin, the mind of no mind. It was not emptiness like silence, but clarity like still water. When the mind was still, the body moved freely. When thought disappeared, instinct took over. Imagine standing face to face with an opponent. Your heart is pounding, breath heavy, hands shaking. If you start thinking, what if I lose? What if I get hurt? You're already slower. But if your mind stays calm, your body knows what to do. That's Mushin. Total awareness, no fear, no hesitation. A samurai named Takun Soho once wrote to a swordsman, "If your mind stops anywhere, you will be defeated." He meant that the mind must flow like water. If you think of blocking, you're late. If you think of striking, you're late. The sword must move as naturally as breath. This idea isn't only for warriors. It's for anyone who faces life's battles, exams, business, heartbreak, failure. We all hesitate, we all overthink, and when we do, we lose the flow. Think about the last time you froze during a big decision, a job interview, a performance. You knew what to do, but your mind filled with noise. What if I lose? What will they think? Am I ready? That's hesitation, the small gap between knowing and doing. That gap is where fear lives. And Mushin is how you close it. In Mushin, there's no room for doubt because there's no room for self. The ego, the voice that says, I can't, I might, I should, disappears. You become the action itself. The swordsman becomes the strike. The writer becomes the words. The athlete becomes the movement. It's not magic, it's training. The samurai reached Mushin through repetition. They practiced each move thousands of times until the body could act without thinking. That's why modern psychologists call it the flow state. When you practice deeply enough, your conscious mind steps aside, and your subconscious, faster and sharper, takes control. The more you practice, the less you need to think. And the less you think, the faster, calmer, and stronger you become. One story tells of a young samurai who asked his master, "How can I reach the state of no mind?" The master took him to a river. "Look," he said, "the water flows around every rock without stopping. It doesn't complain. It doesn't force its way. It just moves." The young warrior watched quietly. He realized that the water never tries to be strong, yet nothing can stop it. That is Mushin, effortless strength, born from stillness. The master continued, "When your mind is like this water, no fear can block you. When your mind becomes still, your power becomes infinite." In our world today, battles don't happen with swords. They happen in the mind. The constant noise of notifications, deadlines, opinions, and pressure makes clarity rare. We wake up thinking, go to sleep thinking, and never stop thinking. That's why many people feel exhausted even when they do nothing. Our minds are always moving, always reacting.
But the samurai learned that strength begins when the mind stops reacting. Mushin is not about controlling your thoughts. It's about not being controlled by them. It's about noticing a thought and letting it pass like a cloud. When you feel anger rising, Mushin says, observe it, don't become it. When fear appears, Mushin says, let it move through you, don't fight it. The goal is not to force calmness, it's to let calmness appear on its own once the noise inside has quieted. Mushin isn't cold or emotionless. It's pure presence, total focus without tension. A samurai in Mushin could sense every detail around him, but his heart stayed still, unshaken by outcome or fear. That's why Mushin is called the mind without fear. It doesn't mean the warrior doesn't feel fear. It means fear never controls him. And that's the beginning of inner power, because strength isn't how much you fight, it's how little you react. You can't always control the world around you, but you can master the world within. Mushin is that mastery, the still mind that moves only when it chooses.
The samurai didn't find Mushin in temples or books. They found it through testing. Only pressure could reveal whether the mind was truly still. When swords clashed, there was no time to think, no room for fear, only presence. But what about you? Your battles may not be fought with steel, yet every day life throws its own kind of strikes. A harsh comment, a failure, an unexpected change. Each moment asks the same question. Can you stay calm when things break apart? That's where Mushin begins in the modern world, not on a battlefield, but in daily tension. When your boss yells, when traffic stops, when someone betrays you, the ordinary mind reacts. It wants to defend, to argue, to escape. But the Mushin mind doesn't run, it observes. It sees emotion rise like a wave and lets it pass without drowning in it. This doesn't mean you suppress your feelings. It means you give them space to move without control over you. Just one breath, in and out, can turn chaos into clarity. That single pause is the modern warrior's sword. A famous Zen saying goes, when you walk, walk. When you eat, eat. That's the simplest form of Mushin, total presence. Do one thing completely. When you study, just study. When you rest, rest fully. When you speak, mean every word. Half attention is the enemy of calm. Distraction divides the mind. Focus unites it. Samurai trained to cut once, perfectly. We train to live one moment fully. To cultivate Mushin today, you don't need a dojo, you need awareness in ordinary actions. When you wash dishes, feel the water. When you type, notice your breathing. When anger stirs, listen before answering. These small moments are your daily training grounds. The goal isn't to escape life, it's to meet life completely. When your mind stops judging every experience as good or bad, you start responding instead of reacting. That's the quiet strength the samurai carried, and it's available to anyone willing to practice attention. There's a story of an old archer who never missed his target. When asked his secret, he said, "I don't aim at the bullseye, I aim at my own heartbeat." He meant that his true target wasn't outside, it was within. If the mind trembles, the arrow wavers. If the mind is still, the arrow flies straight. That's Mushin, victory born from inner steadiness, not outer control. Modern science agrees. Studies on athletes show that peak performance happens when thought quiets and instinct takes over. Musicians call it being in the pocket. Surgeons call it precision focus. Psychologists call it flow.
Different names, same silence. Mushin is simply the human mind working at its highest potential, but reaching it requires discipline. Not punishment, practice. You can't force a still mind any more than you can force calm water. You must prepare it. That's why samurai meditated before battle, not to relax, to sharpen awareness. They trained themselves to see clearly, even under stress. You can do the same. Set aside 5 minutes each morning. Sit, breathe, and notice your thoughts. Don't chase them, don't fight them, just watch. Eventually, they pass on their own. That's the beginning of Mushin, awareness without interference. In time, you'll see how much noise your mind makes. Every worry, every memory, every fear, all appear and vanish like sparks. When you stop attaching to them, space opens. That space is power. Decisions become clearer, words become fewer but sharper. You stop wasting energy on what doesn't matter. Mushin also transforms relationships. When someone argues, your old mind reacts, trying to prove, defend, or win. But a Mushin mind listens fully. It sees the other person's pain beneath their words. It answers with calm instead of resistance. This doesn't make you passive, it makes you precise. You choose your response instead of being pulled by emotion. Imagine how different the world would be if more people paused before reacting, if silence replaced shouting, if clarity guided action instead of pride. That's the unseen strength Mushin creates. As you practice, you'll notice something strange. Peace becomes your natural state. You stop chasing calm because calm follows you. Fear still appears, but it passes quickly, like wind through trees. Your movements grow smoother, your words more deliberate. Pressure stops feeling heavy. You act and things flow. This is what the samurai meant when they said, "The body obeys when the mind stops commanding." Your actions no longer come from force. They arise effortlessly. That's the beauty of Mushin, power without tension. One day you'll face a challenge that once terrified you, a big decision, a painful loss, an uncertain future. And instead of panic, you'll feel space. A quiet voice inside will say, "Just breathe." And you'll move through it, clear, steady, unshaken. That's when you'll realize Mushin isn't something you achieve, it's something you uncover. It was always there, beneath the noise. Training just removes the layers that hide it. The samurai discovered it through combat. You'll discover it through life itself. Every moment of frustration, pressure, or fear is another chance to practice the way of stillness. Because true victory doesn't come from defeating others, it comes from mastering yourself. And that is the real meaning of Mushin, the power that appears when nothing holds you back inside.
Mushin is not just for the battlefield. It shapes every choice you make, every move in life. When your mind is calm and free of doubt, decisions become clear. You act on what matters, not what distracts you. In modern life, distractions are constant. Phones, messages, noise, all of it pulls at your attention. The samurai faced distractions too, though theirs were simpler: fear, ego, hesitation. The lesson remains the same: master your mind, master your moment. With Mushin, mistakes are not failures, they are feedback. You act, observe, adjust, and move again without emotional baggage. The mind doesn't cling to regrets or fear the unknown. It flows, it adapts, it keeps moving. Confidence in Mushin isn't loud, it's silent.
You feel it in the way you breathe, in the way your body responds naturally, in the absence of unnecessary worry. Even when the world pressures you, Mushin allows you to respond instead of react. A sudden challenge doesn't startle you. A harsh word doesn't throw you off. You notice, you act, you continue. Energy is not wasted on panic. It is used to move forward. This is why the samurai were unstoppable. It was not their swords, their armor, or their size. It was the clarity of mind under pressure, the ability to remain present when everything demanded chaos. Mushin teaches us something profound. Control doesn't mean forcing life to bend to your will. Control begins with yourself, your thoughts, your focus, your responses. That is where power lives. If you practice Mushin daily, it becomes habit. Small moments of awareness accumulate. One day, you will notice a new rhythm in your life. Actions come without hesitation, decisions without doubt, strength without strain. A mind without hesitation is a mind that sees the path before it is walked.